everybody, and welcome to The View from the Top. This is the big one. This is the show where we reveal who are the top 100 diversity champions in global mobility. And I'm super grateful to everybody in our industry who has nominated people. We've had hundreds of nominations. We've got some great names on the list, and we are going to be revealing those over the course of the next 60 minutes. We've also got some great people backstage to talk to us about it. We've got our partners. We've got Simon Davis from ITX. We've got Derek Quashie from Vialto Partners. We've got Siobhan Owers from Fragomen Partners. We've got Brittany Chin Murkison from Rocket Mortgage. And we've also got with us, I'm delighted to say, Kelly West from the Mobility Collective. And we'll be talking about the Mobility Collective later on, but an amazing initiative, and congratulations to everybody involved with that initiative. As I said, we've got a fantastic show for you lined up today. So please stay with us and make sure that as we release these names, you do congratulate people. I'm sure you're going to see lots of names of people that you know, or people that you admire, or maybe people that you don't know, but you should know, who are really great in our industry. We've got heroes, a bunch of heroes who are going to be with us on the show today. So as I said, we're talking about the top 100 diversity champions. But then, as you know, this show is all about participation. So please, and I can see loads of you doing this at the moment already, but join the conversation, write in the comments box. To be honest, the only way we know who is actually there in the audience is if you write a comment. So please do write a comment, even if it's only just to say it's raining in Seattle or it's sunny in Madrid or whatever you want to say, but do, make a comment so we know who is out there. We've also got some great shows lined up for you in later weeks. Next week, I'm super excited to say that we're going to be talking about global employment companies, global employment made easy. And I'm delighted to say we've got with us as our special guest next week, Mario Ferraro from ITX and Nydia Knight from International SOS. So that's going to be a super interesting show next week. The other thing, of course, that I would say is one of the things people like about this show, apart from the fact that we have great audience participation, great topics, great guests. I'm being unduly not modest here, but we also have CPE credits. So if those of you who want your CPE credits, I'll just put them up here. You can get CPE credits from pretty much wherever you want. So if you want to get them from Worldwide ERC, we've got the GMS and the CRP credits. If you want to get them, and many thanks to our friends at Worldwide ERC for giving us those credits. And if you want credits from HRCI or SHRM, then they're up there too. And many thanks to our good friends at Rocket Mortgage for providing those HRCI and those SHRM credits. So if you want the credits, I'll leave that up there for a moment. Either just in the old-fashioned way, get a pen and paper and jot down the number that you need, or take a screenshot, or get your camera out and take a photo. However you want to do it, I'll leave it up there for a moment or two. But there's also lots of breaking news in our industry. And one of the things I like to do is to share interesting breaking news in our industry. It might be people who've moved job, people who've retired, people who have been promoted. It may be acquisitions, whatever other news is going on in our industry. So let's have a look. What's been happening in our industry over the last 7 days? Let's find out.
Hello, Brian.
Hi, and I'm now joined by Tally. Just great to see. Before we get onto your section, Tally, I just wanted to congratulate and wish all the best to Rita Chai on her retirement. Rita is a legend of global mobility out in APAC. We will miss you in the industry, but we wish you all the best for your retirement, Rita, and congratulations to everybody else who's been promoted, moved job, and indeed to work from anywhere in Mercer on their announcement of their alignment of their announcement of working together.
From anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tally, what news have you got for us today?
I'm so excited, Brian. I saw in the audience already Jenny from Australia. What time is it there? My God. And we have people joining from Singapore. It's middle of the night there, but yes, they know what's coming. So that's really exciting. And I'm not going to take much of your time because, yes, we want to move it on with the show. So just to let everyone know that you're invited to participate in a new benchmarking survey that we're running about the staffing of global mobility programs, and we're going to gather information that will help identify some trends and best practices. And of course, everyone that will join the survey will get the first results, and later we're going to have a report. So I will send the link in the comments. But that's it from me. Because we're so excited. My God, who's going to be the top 100?
Absolutely. We are super stoked. We're not doing an immigration update today. We're not doing a tax update. We're going to spend the rest of the show talking quite rightly about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And of course, introducing our top 100. But first of all, let's actually meet our guests who are going to be with us as we talk about diversity today. And we've got a superb panel. So Tally, I know you're going to be backstage, Tally. And also, actually, I should say that when all these names are announced at the end of the show, we will be putting it live on the website and people will be able to go out and congratulate. So Tally, tell us how that's going to work. How will people be able to congratulate the winners?
Yes. So as always, we're going to have our top 100 page that would be dedicated to diversity champions. And on this page, you're going to have the whole 100 names. And whenever you click on one of these names, you're going to be able to go in, send your comments, send your congratulate them, and it will go directly as an email to them. If you are one of the top 100 champions, go into this page, go into your dedicated mini page, and if you copy the link from there and you post it on LinkedIn, like magic, your diversity champion card will show up. And you'll be able to share with everyone that that's what you are. You're a diversity champion. So please do that. Share that on LinkedIn, and people will know that they can congratulate you.
Absolutely. So let's share the love over the next 50 minutes. Let's share the love and indeed beyond. And also, everybody, as I bring onto stage our wonderful panelists for today's show, please hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome to the stage our wonderful, wonderful diversity panelists. Good to see you all, everybody. It's so great to have you all on the show. So let's just find out a little bit about you all. So, Siobhan, let's start with you. Tell us a bit about yourself and your role.
Thanks, Brian, and thank you for inviting me on this. I'm a bit overexcited, actually, especially with that snazzy tune you keep playing in the background. But I'm.
More music coming.
My name's Siobhan Owers. I work at Fragomen. Fragomen has got a very established, responsible business practice, which covers all ESG pillars. And I am a UK regional partner for diversity, equity and inclusion, and also a global partner for environment and social and government aspect, the sustainability. So championing and sort of leading the European approach. Alongside that, I have been heavily involved in our EMEA mentoring program, and we're soon to roll out a reverse mentoring program in the UK, which is very exciting. And I'm a mental health ambassador for the firm. But I'm hugely passionate about pushing forward all ESG, agenda initiatives. But it is the responsibility of everyone at the firm and beyond, and reflecting the motto of my children's primary school: be the change you want to see in the world.
Well said, Siobhan. And I saw you need no introduction, said Sherry Maestre, who in fact needs no introduction herself because she's been a guest on our show, and it's good to see you in the audience, Sherry. So, Kelly, let's just talk to you now, because you run the Miles West Group, but also you run a thing called the Mobility Collective, and I want to hear all about both of those.
Well, thank you. Thanks also for having me here. I was dancing off screen with Siobhan to the music in the background, so thank you. So I am the founder and CEO of the Miles West Group. We're a professional services consultancy focusing on global mobility design and supply chain diversity management and design. And then I'm also I don't want to say the brainchild, but I'm the creator of the Mobility Collective and one of the founding members. And
okay, now I want to hear tell us what the Mobility Collective is, because it's not, I'm going to be honest here, I don't think it's as well known as it should be. And if I've got one job today, it's to plug the Mobility Collective. So tell us about what it is.
Well, thank you. It's only been in existence since December, so I think we have some time to grow it. But the Mobility Collective is an organization of professional Black folks, basically, in mobility. And we're celebrating our culture, our knowledge, and our contributions in the mobility landscape. I thought it was important to start the group because if you look at mobility as a whole, you don't see a lot of folks who look like us in the space. And I've been in business for 36 years. And I will tell you, on the first call, we had, 7 to 10 folks on the call. I didn't know any of them. And they had all been in the industry almost as long as I have. So it's a really great group of folks. We get together and we bring our concerns to one another. We put out content, which is really great. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos we've put out of panels, just to get visibility to people who maybe are a little bit underrepresented in the mobility landscape. So it's a good group of folks. And right now, I think we have about 50 members. Yeah.
50 members. Okay.
Now 51.
Yay! Okay. Anybody else out there? Okay. Let's get. Okay. Let's see if we can get you 75 members by the end of the day. Okay. Let's get there out there. So, it's who's membership open to, Kelly?
It is open to. I'm sorry?
Is it American only, or is it global?
No, it's a global organization. So anyone in the Black diaspora, so anybody in the world can join. And we do have folks outside of the US. In Canada, we have folks in Australia, and we have people in Africa. So please.
Okay, so, and there's no cost to join, is there, Kelly?
There is no cost. No.
Okay, so if anybody wants to join the Mobility Collective and they feel it's appropriate, then reach out to Kelly, and anyway, plug over. So we'll talk more about it later. And you are awesome, Kelly. It just said so. Jana just said so. So Simon, tell us a bit about yourself. Now, I know you're with ITX, which a lot of people know, some may not, and I know also that your colleague is on the show next week. So tell us a bit about yourself and the work you're doing around diversity.
Well, first of all, thank you very much also for inviting me to join this group. And it's so interesting being on this side of the camera rather than watching as one of your very many viewers. And it's actually the fastest world weather forecast I've ever seen when everybody joins, because they always tend to say, and as a Brit, we love talking about the weather. So that's what strikes me when everyone joins up. I work with ITX as a Swiss-based company of over 25 years, Brian. And, the GEC, or the Global Employment Company, is seeing something of a re-emergence, sort of post-COVID world that we live in, the new normal as we refer to it in some areas. And, you know, we've developed alternative ways of working and developed the GEC to be a bit more agile, helping companies with remote working solutions just through the GEC. And really my role, talking to organizations about, you know, how flexible this can be as an additional tool to your mobility program, and how it can feed in and support just certain areas of what you're trying to do globally, and really dispel a lot of the myths that seem to exist from the kind of the pre-COVID GEC world. So we have a lot of work to do, and Mario will take you through some of that next week when he's on. So I don't want to steal his thunder. You know, ITX as an organization, you know, in terms of our inclusion ourselves, we're not a huge company, but we have employees from around the world, and you know, we certainly have an integrated global team. Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll come back to you in a moment. Let's meet our other panelists. Brittany, tell us a bit about yourself. I think most people will know Rocket Mortgage. Certainly most people in the US will know Rocket Mortgage. But tell us a bit about yourself and your role as a DEI lead at Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah, so very happy to be here in this space to have this important discussion, and super excited to be representing Rocket Companies and Rocket Mortgage. Have been with Rocket Companies for 8 months now, which is like 5 minutes in Rocket time. So still getting my feet wet and taking advantage of being the new girl around here. But I've been in the DEI space for about 5+ years. And most of my lens around DEI comes with a change management lens to it, to be honest, because I spent about 7 or 8 years doing change management work in the transformation space with another company. And when I think about the work in this space, so much of it revolves around change, and making sure that we're putting in things that are going to be sustainable over time, right? Making sure that we're building the right case for change around this work, making sure that we're putting in the right knowledge and ability so people know what their place is in the DEI world. Oftentimes we find that people still are like, hey, what am I supposed to do with this? How do I talk about this? What does this mean for me? And then finally putting real accountability in place for the work is something that is also top of mind for me when I think about DEI and driving the work here at Rocket. As Vice President of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion here, I have the amazing privilege of working with teams, yes, in the DEI space, but in the learning and development space, right? And steeped in the business of what we do as well. So really thrilled to be here and excited to dive into this discussion.
Okay, well, we're certainly going to get into it more over the next 40 minutes or so. And, you know, and we can talk about DE&I, but I want to really focus on DI specifically as it relates to mobility. And there, actually, there's various lenses you can look at it. You can look at DE&I within the global mobility teams in your organization as a corporate. You can look at DE&I from the perspective of the supply chain that you might have as a corporate. And of course, you can look at DEI from the perspective of the actual people who are moving. So there's lots of different ways to look at it. But let me move on. I want to bring Derek into the conversation. And Derek, Vialto, of course, didn't exist just over a year ago. And happy birthday! Because
Thank you.
Did you have a nice party?
We are 1 year old, and we're really excited. We're not only walking, we are running. We've had a really exciting year this past year. And my role, I'm a immigration attorney, U.S. immigration partner at Vialto, and I don't necessarily have, to be honest, a formalized DE&I role at the firm, but I really my work with the firm comes from my passion, my internal passion, and my own lived experience. So one of the things that we were really was really important to us at Vialto was ensuring that the culture that we had at PwC, particularly around inclusion networks and our employee resource groups, stayed in place because we knew that these were the communities that people looked to find that additional comfort, that care, that support in the workplace. So it was very, very important for us to make sure that we stood those up, and we stood those up as soon as possible to provide that added support. And so I was afforded the opportunity as one of the partners to lead the initiative to stand up our inclusion communities. That's what we call our resource groups at Vialto. And I'm proud to say within the last 12 months, we have stood up 7 inclusion communities at Vialto in support of DE&I strategies, building community, building inclusion and equity, and not only diversity, inclusion, and equity, but also belonging. Belonging is very important. So kudos to the team of global employees that I worked with across the globe at Vialto, who helped to do this work, because it is just vital to any employee experience to have these networks. And we know that it's only one small part of a DE&I strategy, but a very important part.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that. I mean, one of the things about DE&I is you can look at it from so many different lenses. You can look at it from a race or an ethnic lens. You can look at it from a religious lens. You can look at it from a gender lens, an orientation lens. I mean, there's so many different ways. And when we were pulling together this list, we left it deliberately vague. So we let the crowd decide who the champions should be. And I think it's probably about time that we release some names. So out there in the audience, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button if you'd like me to share the first 25 names. If I see the screen lighting up, I'll do it. If I get no reaction, then I might just go home. We've got nearly 200 people watching us live, so hopefully somebody out there is going to start hitting that heart button, hitting the like button, hitting the applause button, and saying how excited that they are to share. Oh, I can see the screen going mad. Okay, so my call to action work. Let's find out who the first 25 are. And I should say, actually, before I share this, this is not in alphabetical order. It's not in vote order. It's in no particular order. We deliberately randomized it. So just because you don't see your name or your favorite candidate's name in the first 25, don't feel that you've missed out in some way, because, as I said, it is completely randomized, the order in which we are showing the names. Okay, everybody, you ready for it? We are going to share the first 25 names of our top 100 diversity champions. Congratulations, everybody who made the first 20. By the way, I should say there are loads and loads of brilliant diversity champions amongst the supplier population, but this list is a list purely of corporate global mobility managers. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to everybody who is diversity champion on the supplier side. But I said this is a list that's focused on the corporates. So we've seen some great names there already. I'm sure there's lots of names you recognize. If there's people that you know, then, do congratulate them in the LinkedIn column. A bit later on, we're going to be sharing the link to the page where you can actually go on and congratulate them on their page. And if you're a member, then if you've been nominated, then when it comes up, you'll be able to pull it over to your own LinkedIn page to have it on your profile that you are a top 100 diversity champion. But I want to get into a bit of debate, because I think one of the things I've noticed over the years is that underrepresented communities seem to be even more underrepresented when it comes to going on transfers, on moves. Why do we think that is? Does anyone want to jump in? Why do we think that is? Why are certain groups, underrepresented groups, even more underrepresented when we're talking about going on assignment or transfer? Who's going to go for it? Come on, somebody jump in. Otherwise, I shall throw it out. I'm going to throw it out. Brittany, I'm going to start with you.
Kelly, I was just about to say, Kelly, you look like your mouth is open and you're ready there to dive in. And
Kelly,
so I believe in you, Kelly.
Over to Kelly. Come on.
Well, I mean, I think it's a broader discussion, right? Because when we think about, DE&I and people who are given opportunities, I think the discussion gets much deeper as why folks aren't sort of elevated to be able to take assignments. And so if a company doesn't have a strong sense of inclusion in how they treat their people, how they promote their people, how they develop their people, then those folks aren't going to be able to take opportunities. I also think there's some cultural issues, right, that come into play with people going on assignment, and some probably education things that have to happen in underrepresented communities to make them comfortable to take on assignments, if that sort of makes sense to everybody. But yeah, I think
I echo that, and I would say that there's still a lot of organizations, unfortunately, still in 2023, where there's a tap on the shoulder approach to global mobility. It's like, hey, Derek, we need somebody in Australia. Do you want to go? Right? And there's not that visibility to opportunities for everybody in the organization who is worthy of putting their hand up. And so how do we take that bias out? How do we take out the whole driver around it's who that allows you to get the assignment as opposed to what right? So I think unfortunately we still have that in global mobility, and we certainly need to move away from that kind of culture.
Do you think there's a level of self-selection that people say, actually, I don't want to move, because people who typically move are, to take an example, maybe white male, and that less people from the Black community or the gay community or the LGBT community are less likely to move? Do you think there's a level of self-selection?
I do, Brian, and I think communication would hugely help this. But I think, for example, women may worry about their safety in new cities and workplaces. We talk about psychological safety, but what about physical safety? Has there been enough communication about where that person may actually be living? What's the security there? People from underrepresented groups may feel that they could have language barriers, or there would be a lack of understanding about their culture, so that kind of fear. And also LGBTQ plus, they may fear their safety, and also the whole process, their inability to perhaps obtain a visa for themselves, or complexity over documents, or their same-sex partners not being legally recognized. So there's a lot we can do to communicate, and there's a lot we can do maybe shaping the policies and understanding the data of our employee population.
Yeah, I think there's also
significant.
Sorry, Simon, you go first, then Brittany.
I think there's also an element of reintroducing sort of cultural awareness training as well, which is something that kind of disappeared for a long time. Really, to your point, so starting to see that being reintroduced as a must-have.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when I listen to some of the comments of the team here, a lot speaks to well-being, right? And when you think
Yes.
about global mobility and the impacts this potentially has on someone and their family, right? There's a significant well-being portion to this, and that companies really have to have things that are ingrained and in place to ensure that that transition takes well-being into account, so that so much of what we do is done at work. But when you add that element in that transition, there is a significant, from the cultural awareness to cultural sensitivity, and looking at impacts on a woman who's a mother with a family versus someone who is a caretaker, and all of those different things. There's a significant well-being lens that we have to use in this DEI space when we're having this discussion.
Yeah, there's a comment there from Laura Levinson. Let's just pull that one up on screen. She's responding to Melanie, and she says, women are indeed overlooked, but equally relevant is the way in which women and other minorities get self-select out because of a sense of non-belonging. I think I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. We're agreeing with Laura's comment.
I think that's so true, because I think if you already feel that you are not belonging in your home country location, right? You're not really excited about going abroad to work for the same company, right? So how do we create, to Brittany's point, that well-being, that belonging before you leave, before you even put your hand up? Because there's no way that you're going to want to put your hand up if you don't feel like you belong at the organization. And so, that critical work needs to be done first to really drive equity, diversity, and inclusion in the global mobility space.
Okay, there's some great comments coming in from the audience. I don't want to put them up now, because what I do want to do is release our next 25 names. But after that, we will maybe come back to some of those comments from the audience. So everybody, if you want to see the next 25, I am awful like this, aren't I? Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's see who are our second 25 who've made the Global Mobility Top 100 Diversity Champion list. So there we have our next 25. So we're halfway through. Hopefully we saw some great names there. I certainly did. And I'm guessing you all saw names you recognized. Do congratulate people if there's people that you know out there. So some great people. I see someone congratulating Rena and Selena, and congratulating Yuki, all people who've previously been on our show as well. Kelly, I want to address a question to you, because I know one of the things you do, you've got two hats. You've got the Mobility Collective, which I suppose is your evening job, and then your day job is you run the Miles West group. And I know one of the things that you specialize in is supply chain diversity, which I think is a fascinating area. So tell us a bit about how corporates can ensure diversity in their supply chains.
One of the most important things is being able to get a hold of your data, which I think is true everywhere. But until you understand the data and how that relates to your corporate culture and your vision, it's really hard to create a diverse supply chain. So when we work with companies, that's where we start. We do assessments and understand what their goals are, how they feel about things, and then we help them sort of break down the data to understand who their constituents are, who their internal, external stakeholders are, and then we build out a program for them if they don't have it. But data is the first thing. You can't do anything until you know that. But what I will tell you is if you diversify your supply chain, it creates innovation, it creates brand improvement, it creates cost improvement, ability to sell more. Like there are so many reasons to do it. And you create equity, right, for underrepresented groups.
And Simon, if I can bring you into the conversation, you work with a lot of companies managing or working with their global employment companies. Do you then look at creating diversity amongst their talent acquisition or their supply chain? I mean, how are you working with these companies to enhance diversity?
I think one of the things, Brian, is that we act on behalf of the client and have to adopt their practice. And this is still relatively, what one could say is still relatively new. It's quite difficult to share best practice. And going to the point that Kelly made earlier about it being such a broad topic, that it really depends on the culture of the organization and what their objectives are with their international program, that this really sets the landscape for the next part around the D&I piece. So it's quite hard to make a broad brush sweep of the question. I mean, perhaps technology, Brian, is an area where we can get some sense across the board. And I know that's something you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when I look at it from, I put my Beneva hat on, is that our platform allows companies to create dashboards to measure diversity through whichever lens they want to look at it on, so they get the data. And once we get the data, so, they might choose, gender or ethnicity or whatever lens they want to look at it in. But one interesting thing about that is you can then start using predictive analytics, and you start actually creating dashboards to say, well, this is an issue because whatever mobility is less represented than, say, the mainstream business. And that raises the question. I think another important, so I mean, data, I think, is hugely important. I think another issue, it's come up, I just want to pull up the comment if I can find it, and then maybe bring this over to you, Brittany, is this question of unconscious bias. I think, unconscious bias is a really big issue. And how do we even start to address unconscious bias?
Yeah, so you use it's a really big issue, and it is. The reality of the fact is it's the way that our brains work here. So I want to remind people that bias is how our brains work in general. It's what prevents us from getting burned when we put our hand down on a hot stove, right? And so I say that to say, for everybody out there, we talk about unconscious bias. The first thing I remind everybody is that, hey, unconscious bias doesn't mean that you're racist or that you want to do the bad thing. That's why it's unconscious, but we always forget that. Now, what I'll say is that there's a couple things here, and education is one piece of it, right? It's one piece of it. We're never going to get rid of unconscious bias. It's never going to happen. It will not go away. It's part of who we are and how we're wired. What we try and do and what we're working on at Rocket is building systems and processes in place, right, to kind of combat some of those things and create more objectivity out of processes, so that we're looking at selection for opportunities, and we're looking at that tapping on the shoulder, performance reviews, right? How we're choosing to develop people, the path that we're putting on. We have to put those objective things in place and hold one another accountable, because the reality of the situation is when it comes to unconscious bias, I will be able to see it in you before you can see it in yourself, right? So how do we create those? How do we create interview panels? How do we create panels of folks that can choose, that can help shape what career development looks like for individuals, what succession planning looks like in terms of these assignments and how it fits into the bigger picture. The other thing that I will say around unconscious bias is really focusing in on the habits and behaviors that counteract some of that, to rewire, if you will, on how we should be treating one another to create those environments of inclusion and those things around that. So people, when we talk about unconscious bias, we want to head immediately to training. And the reality of the situation is one training on unconscious bias, 2 trainings on unconscious bias will virtually, and this is a controversial thing to say, but I'll say it anyway, you're going to give 1 training on unconscious bias, you're virtually doing nothing. Because 1 training or even 2 workshops, because we love to do those in DEI, we love a good workshop, that's not going to change the ingrained habits and behaviors that it's going to take to really create change. So I saw in the comments that someone said, hey, I don't want to be passed over for an opportunity because I'm a mother. That's a real thing, right? It's a real thing and it happens. So we have to provide those opportunities. But then, by the way, because intersectionality, I saw that, because I'm a mother, because I'm a Black mother, because I am a Black mother who's also a caretaker, or because of all of these different lenses, we have to provide the right support when these assignments happen, because what we certainly don't want to do is create the opportunity and then not have the support to sustain and grow that person once they get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. What I want to do now, that amazing comments. I think, in fact, Nuran Zurug said she's running a session on unconscious bias, and people are welcome to join. So, Nuran, if you want to post a link somewhere, we'll give that a plug for you. I want to ask a question of the audience, and let's just see if I can find that here. So we've got that comment there from Nuran. That's great. So that's there. Is how would you rate your company's efforts to enhance DE&I specifically in global mobility? So everybody in the audience, tell us what you think. How would you rate your company's efforts to enhance DE&I? And I'll give you 3 choices. You can either say weak, moderate, or excellent. Okay. So how do you think your company is doing? And we'll get back to that in a few minutes. What I do want to do though, is actually start sharing some more names, moving on to our 3rd group of 25 people. So people, start answering this question. And once I see a few questions about how you rate your offers, let's just see what our panelists think whilst people are answering that. And then once I've got a few answers to that, as a reward, I'll share the next 25. So Simon, what do you think in terms of the industry as a whole? How do you think companies are doing in D&I? Just weak, moderate, or excellent? Just a 1-word answer.
Moderate.
Okay. What, Kelly? 1-word answer.
Weak.
Derek?
Weak.
Siobhan?
Weak.
And Brittany? Brittany? A 1-word answer. Weak, moderate, or excellent? You might be on mute.
Moderate.
Moderate. Okay, so I had 2 moderates and 3 weaks. Okay, well, we'll find out in a moment what the poll said. But meanwhile, let's have a quick look at who are our 3rd 25. So we're talking numbers 50 to 75. And as I said, of course, this is in no particular order. third group of 25. And I just want to repeat our big thanks to all of our partner organizations here today, to ITX, to Vialto, to Rocket Mortgage, to Fragomen, and of course to the Mobility Collective for partnering with us. We really appreciate your support in this, and I think the whole industry does. So big kudos to all of you guys for taking part today. And by the way, at the very end of the show, we will be showing all 100 in a video as well. So you can also, if you've missed out some names, you'll get to see them all at the end. So anyway, congratulations to everybody who has made the list so far. That's really great. But I asked the question, how would you rate your company's efforts? And let me just tell you what the audience said when we did a poll on LinkedIn, and see if this surprises you. 23% said that their company was weak, 47% said moderate, and 30% said that their company was excellent. Is that, whereas when I asked you as a group, I think we had 2 saying weak and 3 saying moderate, and there was no excellence out there, but actually 30% of the audience think that they are excellent. So what's Christina? She said, there's so many weak or moderate. We as an industry have got a lot of work to do. Do you think we're fooling ourselves a bit if we think we're doing excellent?
Well, I think once again, Brian, perhaps it comes from, where were we 2 years ago? We've made some great strides. The fact that we're doing this now just demonstrates that this is really something that's on everybody's agenda. So it kind of depends on which lens you're looking at the question. When we talk about what we've actually achieved, maybe it is more on the weak side, but we know that it's there to do. It's on the to-do list, which it wasn't.
I think it's really challenging to come up with a true understanding without data, right? And there's a real challenge in the DE&I space with getting critical data to really come to some critical conclusions around how you're doing as an organization. And until we create places of psychological safety, workplaces that are driving care and belonging, that make people comfortable with self-identification, the more it's going to be kind of like a pie in the sky kind of guess as to how we're doing as organizations. So we do really well at collecting gender data, albeit gender data is even changing as we know, right? It's gonna change. We're not only going to be looking at women, men, male, female, that kind of thing, but we are lacking data in the DE&I space, and that plagues how we are really able to see how we're doing as organizations, and also how we're able to see if there are any barriers or any patterns and practices of disparity in our global mobility programs as well. So I'm challenged, with the results, only because I think there's a lot of data missing. And if we're just looking at, one of the things we often look at in isolation is just hiring practices. We're not really looking at retention and the experience of the people that remain, right? So sometimes we're just like, oh, it's great, we've been hiring more women, or we've been hiring more underrepresented people, but what happened? Are we really looking at the experience once they're there, or the attrition of those people?
That brings me into an interesting question. We'll discuss it for a minute or two, and then I think we'll go into looking at the next group, in fact, the last group of our top 100. But the question I want to get into, and it's quite an interesting one, is should we take affirmative action? Which I think affirmative action actually is a US-centric term. I think certainly where I'm in the UK, we call the same thing positive discrimination. But call it what you will. Should we be taking affirmative action / positive discrimination to encourage underrepresented or minority groups to take overseas transfers? Okay, so, and the choices that I'll give you, and I'm interested in the audience's views here, are no, it's not appropriate. And the argument there is presumably that we ought to be transferring people based on merit, and we shouldn't be taking affirmative action. Or The alternative answer is yes, because we need to have more D&I and global mobility, and therefore we should be taking affirmative action. Okay, so who wants to kick off on that? We'll do a couple of minutes on that. We might come back to afterwards, and then we'll go into the last 25. Kelly, what's your view?
So I think we need more DE&I and global mobility without question. What I would say is I think we need more education. So affirmative action sometimes has a negative connotation, and I don't want that to sort of be the takeaway. I think we need to be more intentional. I think we need to be more educational, and I think we need to look at how we're deploying our people in a more fair and equitable manner, right? So that's my take, basically, yeah.
And Siobhan, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with Kelly that we know there are things we can do. We can look at our programs, we can look at our policies, we can think about how inclusive they are. How's the language? Does it cover a definition for dependents? Does it have a support relocation for established relationships, regardless of gender and marital status? We know we can do that kind of stuff now, and so we should, without getting into employment law.
Yeah, because there is a question of legality, isn't there, in certain
Yes.
jurisdictions, whether it's even legal. Yeah, I mean, Brittany? What's your point? Your perspective? Do you think we should be taking affirmative action?
So, I'd like to go back to what I said earlier. Unfortunately, I wish I could say that there was one thing to do in order to make this problem go away, and that was it. And if that were the case, then great. The reality of the situation is we know that if we're not supporting folks once they get through the door, then let's not bring them in the first place, to be honest, right? So I think that there is a more holistic picture. And so if we're going to say, hey, should we be doing that thing? My answer, honestly, would be no, we shouldn't be doing that thing, right? It has to be this and that, right? Because the reality, and we've seen, well, let's just hire more women, or let's just put more of this. That'll do it. And that's just not the case. When we think about belonging, it's a combination of diversity, representation, right? That's representation. It's a combination of that and equity and inclusion. All of those things create the outcome of belonging. And so unless you're going to work on all three, I say, no, you can't just work on that one and hope to see sustainable results over time.
Okay, so interesting comments there. What we're going to do now is we're going to release the final 25, but after we've done that, this is a message to the audience, please hang on, because we're going to be telling you exactly how you can see that link, how you can go and go to the link, go to the web page, how you can congratulate people, how you can pull the LinkedIn page across, and indeed at the very end we're going to be showing you all 100 again. But let's have a look at who is in our fourth group of 25. And as I said all along, it's in no particular order. It's not alphabetical. It's a completely random order. So everybody hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's see who our fourth group of 25 is. we have Tally with us now. So Tally, tell us what people can do now now that those 100 names have been released.
Yes. Well, that's so I'm so excited. My God. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and Michelle just opened now. Just released the password, and this page is now open. Ta-da!
So we're live.
We're live. Yes.
So
first, I want to
let me bring your screen on stage. It's not on stage. Let me just bring
Okay,
that
so
on.
please, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
This is the page.
here it is. Okay.
Yes. Congratulations to everyone on this list. But you know what? Before I dive into that, I want to first thank our sponsors. And they have their beautiful pages right here on the top. So you can take a look at them. Rocket, Vialto, Fragomen, and of course, ITX. And take a look at their pages. They've been wonderful partners to us. But of course, more important are the finalists and the nominees. And let's look at Ezibe, who was on our show, and he's now top 100 diversity champion. So if I wanna congratulate Ezibe for winning the top 100, I'm gonna go into his picture. And can you see this his screen? I'm just not sure. Cool.
We can absolutely see it.
Okay, great. So you can see him here. You can see who he was nominated by. He was actually nominated anonymously, but in other cases, you'll be able to see the names of the people who nominated, and you can also send him a message. So you can write a message for Ezibe, and it will go directly his mailbox, and you can congratulate him. So please do so. And actually, Ezibe, if you're here and if you want to share your achievement, you can just copy the link and you can go into LinkedIn. And once you share on LinkedIn the link to this page, it will show your nomination card. So please do so.
Perfect. Okay, so if you're on the list and you want to put it across to LinkedIn, you simply go in, you copy and paste, and as if by magic, your banner card will appear. And if you want to congratulate people, that's it. It's been an amazing panel. It's been great having all the guests on. Just to finish up, I'm just going to play a video of all 100 names. So if you want to see who they are, again, here's the list which we're playing out. Here's the video we're playing out now of all 100.
Wow. This is really exciting. Brian, I think you're speechless.
That's the end of our show today. Many, many thanks to our wonderful panelists, to Kelly West, to Simon Davis, to Brittany Chin Murkison, to Siobhan Owers, and to Derek Quashie. It's been great having you on the show today. Really appreciate your input. Many, many thanks to all our audience who took part. We will be back next week, in fact, with Simon's colleague, Maria Ferrara, and Nydia Knight from International SOS will be on the show next week. And many, many thanks to our top 100 diversity champions, and indeed to everybody that nominated them. You've all been wonderful. Now, get on LinkedIn and pull that banner up or congratulate people. It's been a great afternoon, and thank you all very much. Take care, and we will see you all again next week. Take care, everybody.